The following program is made possible by our sponsors. Live from the Black Box Theater at Burlington's Main Street Landing, Vermont PBS and 7 Days present the Innovato 2 Roundtable on Tech, Innovation, and Vermont's Economy with the candidates for governor. Here's moderator Cathy Resmer from 7 Days.
Hello, and welcome to Innovato 2, a roundtable discussion about technology, innovation, and Vermont's economy with the 2016 candidates for governor. This conversation is brought to you by 7 Days, Vermont PBS, the Vermont Technology Alliance, and BTV Ignite. I'm your moderator, Cathy Resmer, associate publisher of 7 Days, and one of the organizers of the Vermont Tech Jam. We're here at the Main Street Landing Black Box Theater in Burlington during the city's first Innovation Week. Today's roundtable is one of a series of Innovation Week events highlighting the Burlington area's creative, tech, and entrepreneurial ecosystem. But our conversation here will focus on the entire state of Vermont. We'll be concentrating on 3 public policy priorities identified by the Vermont Technology Alliance. They are positioning Vermont, which means incorporating innovation and technology into the Vermont story, addressing infrastructure, this includes access to broadband, expanding support for entrepreneurs, and training students for 21st century jobs. And finally, we'll examine the policies and legislation that affect tech businesses in Vermont. We'll be talking about those areas with the 3 candidates: Republican Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott from Berlin, Democrat Sue Minter from Waterbury, and Bill Lee from Craftsbury of the Liberty Union Party. You can give them each a round of applause. We hope to keep each candidate to 90 seconds to respond to questions and under a minute to respond to follow-up questions. Finally, we'll invite each candidate to offer a closing statement of not more than a minute and a half. We're hoping that today's discussion will be more conversational than a typical debate. We want to know more about how each of the candidates views technology and how they would approach the challenges and opportunities it's creating across Vermont. We're also excited to share some of the amazing innovative things already happening here. For the last few weeks, we've been collecting questions from the public, including a few video questions that we'll be presenting throughout our 90-minute discussion. But before we get to those, I want to ask you guys a question about your own comfort with technology, particularly as it relates to communication. The Pew Research Center recently said that 81% of Americans now get their news, or some of their news, from websites, apps, and social media. Electronic communication has played a big role in this year's presidential race. One candidate is bedeviled by emails, and the other one is making headlines for tweeting at 3 a.m. My question for you is, how comfortable are you with email and social media? Do you use Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat? Or do you find digital communication challenging? And if so, how do you overcome that challenge? And we'll start with Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, thank you very much. And it certainly is an issue that's being contemplated almost every single day in terms of how we receive our news and the broad aspects of receiving that. Of course, after I put down 7 days reading that first, I go to other areas as well. And that's why I start my morning, just going through my emails. I get up fairly early, 4:30 or so, and I start going through the emails and go through Twitter and start getting my news that way. But again, from all different sources, we've almost become slaves to our devices, which is both good and bad. I envy those who have never had an email address, for instance, because you're constantly trying to update, and everyone expects an instantaneous response from every single inquiry. So at times you have to take a deep breath and take a step back and say, you want some interaction, you want face-to-face time, you want to make sure that people understand where you're coming from, what your views are. And so this is great to get together like this. But I'm like everyone else at this point, just trying to catch up, whether it's with Twitter or Instagram or with email or just all types of sources, and it's hard to keep up at times, but we all do our best.
Indeed. Mr. Lee.
I'm very uncomfortable. I've never had a cell phone, and when they told me to turn off my device, I didn't know what that meant. So I live in Craftsbury. I never had reception. I remember the first time I had a portable phone in the car. The car was detailed. My wife gave me a present for my birthday. It was December 28th, and I had this cell phone in there, and the car was detailed. It froze up, couldn't get back in the car. Tried to call the house, didn't work in my area, so I yelled to my wife in the window. I believe that on the way here, I saw 4 violations between Waterbury and here with cell phone devices in the car. This is terrible. You know, I had a poor Japanese tourist in Stowe who stopped right in the middle of the road, stopped traffic, and I honked at him, and my wife smiled, and I told him, don't look at your device, move off the road and look at it. So we have to come to grips, and I am an AT&T customer. My father worked for AT&T for 60 years. He was an engineer, and he developed fiber optics. He started fiber optics, so he was a very successful, man in that business and stuff, but it doesn't work in the state of Vermont. Not for me where I live and stuff. So I am very upset with that, and I'm very upset with Ridgeline Energy and stuff, which is another thing, and I want to get rid of all that too, because it's really killing us in Craftsbury having to look at those red lights all night on that beautiful Lowell Ridge. Thank you.
Secretary Minter.
Well, I will confess, as a sociology major in college, I was pretty much a Luddite, probably not as big as Bill Lee, but I have certainly evolved, and evolved with observing not just the power of technology, but the importance of understanding its power, and using it actually to help drive our economy and to help with our education. As a leader, I certainly look to others to be the tech geniuses, and especially my son, who is far more proficient than I am. But I do talk with my son and his friends about how they communicate. And yes, my campaign is very active on social media for every medium that we can. But I like to think about what's important about innovation and technology in terms of how we drive the future and how technology is driving the future. And I don't know if it's whether we want to talk about how innovation and technology is transforming our energy future and is actually going to get us to reducing our carbon economy, storage of electricity, efficiency, more efficient appliances, or whether it's, in fact, the education and how we need to have cell and broadband throughout this state to make sure we can have telecommunications and education. We have to have leadership that understands the power and importance, especially for our media. Now, I happen to be a lover of print media. I still get 2 papers a day and 1 a week. But I know that most people are using other medium, and we have to communicate effectively.
Thank you. I just want to direct a follow-up to Mr. Lee. You've said you're sort of anti-technology.
I want good technology. I want it to be, when it's perfected, I'll jump in.
Yeah, I guess I noted that you don't have a campaign website and haven't updated your Twitter account since 2015.
What's that?
Yeah, you have one.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I don't have a Facebook either.
But you've also said...
People steal my name a lot.
Maybe
like
it's not
Abby
verified,
Hoffman.
you're right.
Steal this book, please.
You've also said that with the advent of new technology, we are going to be able to feed all of the people all of the time.
Yes.
And you also quote Buckminster Fuller and make the statement that you have to tie yourself to the future. So I guess I wonder, where do you come down on this? What's good technology?
I come
what's
on
bad?
Buckminster Fuller's side. We will eventually, there's a Punch cartoon from the 1880s, and it shows a bulldozer on the earth pushing all the people off. The bulldozer is called industrialization. We in Vermont were lucky enough never to succumb to that. That's why we're such a great state. We never had the hangovers of the Industrial Revolution. We are an agrarian place that'll basically start from scratch, and we're going to be perfect. I have no worry about that once it gets to the fact that we can have it. But I need my long line because I do radio interviews in Boston and Montreal, and the quality that I get on my long line. When I call 1-800-CALL-ATT now, and I punch in my number and my PIN. They said it no longer works. So I call AT&T and I ask them for it, and when I touch the right number 5, it goes to a busy signal. So I don't get to talk to anybody anymore, and I got to pay top prices. I want 5 cents a minute for eternity. That's what they promised me, and that's what I want AT&T to uphold their bargain right now. And you heard it right here first on roller derby.
Roller derby. Okay.
That's a Cheech and Chong thing. You got to know Cheech and Chong. I played basketball with Cheech Marin all the time. So I'm a Malibu boy. I'm a Californian, 6th generation, but the 7th generation is from Wyndham.
Okay. So I want to get to one of our first video question. It comes from Geoff Gevalt. He is a former managing editor of the Burlington Free Press, and he's currently the executive director of the Young Writers Project. The Young Writers Project creates a digital community for Vermont middle and high schoolers, teenage writers. It gives them access to publishing opportunities, to mentors across the state who help them with their writing, and also it connects them to each other, which I think is vitally important if you're a young writer sitting at home in a rural part of the state. So let's find out what Geoff's question for you is.
I wanted to ask each of you, as you look back in your life and your accomplishments, what do you think the most innovative thing is that you've done? Thanks.
I think I'm not sure if you caught that.
The most innovative thing
Yes,
that we've
he wants
done?
to know, what is the most innovative thing you've ever done? And we'll start this time with Secretary Minter.
Well, I think certainly there are many ways in which I think about innovation, and honestly, I feel proud of the accomplishment that our state did after Tropical Storm Irene, and I was privileged to help lead the recovery phase of that. First, the emergency phase, when we had over 500 miles of road damaged, and every east-west corridor severed, and 13 communities totally cut off. Our agency had to be very innovative every day. We had to collaborate, innovate, do things totally differently. We completely restructured our workforce within 48 hours, 700 people redeployed, overseeing and managing that, having every day 3 phone calls a day throughout the state, understanding what was happening, and quickly innovating to respond. Working creatively and innovatively with the private sector contractors, with volunteers, with different National Guard troops from 8 different states, 3 different state transportation agencies, constantly thinking about how best and effectively to deploy. We used innovation in our technology. It was the absolutely unbelievable, miraculous thing that we had just received for the first time, iPads for every one of our incident command centers. We, within 24 hours, made 3 incident command centers functional, including technologically functional. We use innovation with the technology to do permitting, instant permitting with the Agency of Natural Resources on site, because it wasn't going to work to go normally through series and series of reviews. We actually did it through on-site applications. The kind of innovation we used in Irene, we then adapted. We created an accelerated bridge program where we're building bridges faster, cheaper, and smarter. It used to take 8 years to build a bridge from creation to design to construction. It now on average takes 2 years. That innovation has changed the entire business process of how we are thinking about construction. Rapid construction so that we can actually get things done more quickly and better value on the taxpayer dollar. I'm incredibly proud of what our state accomplished after Irene. I know, having served on Obama's task force on climate preparedness, working with leaders across this country, that the innovation that we did is actually a model for recovery in other states. And it's what we can do and pay forward to think very differently, because we have many crises. You know, we're not looking at a natural disaster right now, but we have so many crises that I'm hearing about as I travel this state. And if we aren't thinking differently, if we aren't looking to young people to actually think about how we can solve problems, if we aren't using technology to be creative about the future, we won't be leading. And I want to be the governor who continues to lead our state forward. I think we can be an innovative state and actually a magnet for young people and innovation. And I'm proud of so many of the innovations that we've been able to use, and I would love to continue to be that kind of innovator throughout state government and partnering with the great innovators here today.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Most creative thing I ever did. Wow.
Most innovative thing.
Most innovative. Boy, let me start. Let me count the ways. Circle change, to win a pro game at 61, to win a pro game at 63, to win a complete game at the age of 65, to win the Vermont State Championship with a curved bat that I invented right here in Craftsbury. You know, because of the stuff, the drying techniques, it works. But we found out if you turn the convex side away, you can let the ball travel deeper into the strike zone and strike later and thereby hit the ball the other way. And we won the Vermont State Championship in Montpelier 2 weeks ago when I pitched 12 innings. I also had a group called Save Fenway Park that was started with me and a bunch of guys from Cambridge, and we would not let them tear down Fenway Park. So me and the other guys, we all got together and we saved Fenway Park. In '88, I ran for president on the Rhino ticket out of Montreal. Abby Hoffman backed me there. And my platform was no guns, no butter. They'll both kill you. I call that innovative. But I'm a gun toter. You know, I am a hunter. My maternal mother's name is Paula Teresa Hunt. You know, Paul Adams Hunt. Rockwell David Hunt. He's the head of the University of Southern California Department of Graduate School. I ended up putting Governor Edmund G. Brown into office, my family. So I come from a family of lawyers and creative people, you know, and I believe that we have to go back to the earth first. We have to start from the ground up. You can have all the technology you want, but if you have it on a bad foundation, it will not last. So I am definitely going to do that.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, I'm going to move in a couple of different areas. One being in my passion for racing. Throughout my probably 30, 35 years of racing, it drives innovation and it drives new technology. And you're always trying to find a way to build a better mousetrap. And that's what we've done. We've taken vehicles, cars, tried to make them stick to the track better, and trying to do it more efficiently, trying to do it in a way that creates a faster lap time, so to speak. With different geometrical designs, different shocks, different springs, all kinds of different technology, we've been able to accomplish that. But I also want to go back to my construction business. I've been in business now, construction business, for 30 or 35 years. And that has evolved much differently than when we first started out. Everything was being laid out by hand in terms of doing a job, utilizing a plan, staking it out, and so forth. And we've gone much further to drive. And I know Sue takes a lot of credit from the bureaucrat's standpoint of trying to do things faster, better, cheaper. But it's really the private sector that does that. It's the private sector that drives technology. It's the private sector that actually thinks outside the box to try and, because of the competition involved, trying to do it faster, better, and less expensively so that they can get the job. So we've been able to utilize computer technology. We use it on some of our excavation techniques. We've been able to lay out the job sites with a GPS. And we're able to utilize our equipment to do that in a much, much faster way and provide savings for the state and different municipalities in doing so.
Thank you. Oops, I'm getting some feedback here. And we want to talk more about education and infrastructure and all those things, but in this first section of the conversation, we really wanted to talk about telling Vermont's tech story, or how we integrate tech into the Vermont story. So this week in Burlington, we've been celebrating Innovation Week, but the city doesn't have a monopoly on innovation. There are lots of creative and tech-driven businesses doing interesting work all over the state. In fact, Vermont PBS produces a show highlighting them called Innovate. We wanted to share a short teaser from the second season of that show, which is going to debut on November 15th. That will set up our next question, which talks about the state story.
Hi, it's me, Victoria, and welcome to Innovate on Vermont PBS.
It's a classic Vermont story, I think.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs having a good idea and then building a business out of it.
We've finally wound up making these things with injection molding right here in Milton, actually.
Pull up a chair. Oh my God. This show, I'm learning every bit as much as you are.
So it's really sort of wrapped like a present and air sealed, and that's why we get the level of air tightness that we do.
And the energy efficiency that you do.
And the energy efficiency.
How do you feel about Vermont as kind of a place where, for innovation, for companies such as yours?
10 years ago, I kind of felt like we were setting up, an ice cream shop in the desert. I mean, I didn't feel like there was much of a technology community. But just in 10 years, the technical community is really thriving in Vermont through financial organizations like VITA and private lenders and the Vermont Technology Alliance and Generator, and I mean, it's an incredible maker space kind of atmosphere. And there's a lot of companies like ours.
In this Vermont model, where you have all these distribution utilities and a statewide utility and the state university and a hugely supportive administration and state agencies.
Perfect atmosphere.
It really is. It is that energy innovation workbench.
We've got such an awesome opportunity here. Like Burlington and Vermont in general has such a sweet opportunity to like own this new model of entrepreneurship and tech growth. And for me, that tech sector goes hand in hand with everything else that's so important to me as a Vermonter, right? It goes hand in hand with agriculture and food entrepreneurship. And that all creates this diverse landscape that you get to be a part of living here that's so special. And sometimes when we're talking about stuff with some older folks in the state or some, government representation, you feel that people sense a conflict between those two things. People are like, man, well, this tech sector can't grow too big or else we'll lose traditional Vermont. We'll lose this agriculture and this beauty that we care about so much. But it's like, no, man, like for me, I want to work really hard doing this job so that I can pay my friend for their CSA and I can go and get my veggies and get my beef every day.
And help basically reunite that whole holistic environment.
I really like learning about people and what it is that they do. So I hope that you join me and along on this journey as I explore the many corners of this beautiful state, and it'll be a lot of fun.
That's going to set up our next question. Before we get to that, I just want to note that Marguerite Dibble, who is the woman we saw from Game Theory there, she is actually from Landgrove, Vermont. She's a Vermont native, and she went to Champlain, and she's growing a tech business, went into business for herself right here in Burlington. So she's very much a Vermont success story. But the Vermont that we saw presented, I think, in that show is a little bit different from the image of Vermont that we often see presented to the world. I wanted to show this to you because I think it's a good example of what this next questioner is talking about.
My question is this: at 25%, Vermont's tech sector creates more jobs than any other business industry or sector in the state, yet our reputation remains only in tourism and agriculture. So I'm wondering, as governor, what will you do to help evolve Vermont's brand image so that it holds both tourism and agriculture and our quality of life, but also holds the innovation technology culture?
And Lieutenant Governor Scott, we'd like to start with you.
Well, certainly as I travel the state, I'm amazed every single day about the businesses that I encounter that do some really, really intricate specialty things that I never knew we did. And it's really interesting, and I think that especially as we talk about Innovation Week here in this area, that we are able to incorporate some of what we learn and innovate by nature. In 2015, I started this Vermont Economy Pitch where I asked all these entities to come in and tell us what we could do as legislators, what we could do to help them prosper in their businesses, what we could do to get out of the way in certain ways or assist in different types of legislation that would help them. And I remember hearing this in one of these pitches. I had 7 of them throughout the state where we asked 15 entities to give a 5-minute progressive type proactive pitch about what we could do to help. And one of them was by Matt Dodds, the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, who talked about Vermont innovative by nature. And we were actually, over time, we secured funding to do this. We create the plan to market Vermont as a great place to work, live, and build a business. And this report came out in June, and I'll be using these recommendations to modify Vermont's marketing message, because I think that's important to attract that age group, 25 to 44, which we're losing, by the way. We've lost 30,000 out of this category from 25 to 45 since the last census. And that's the area that we have to rebuild. And I think it's key to the growth of the state, the growth of the economy, to try and revitalize and tell our story, because we really do have a unique story here in Vermont.
Secretary Minter.
Well, thanks for that great show, and it really does describe the excitement I have also experienced traveling the state and talking with great innovators like Marguerite, who I learned and met with a couple of times now. And it isn't just in Burlington area, it's really in other parts of the state that we need to incubate more opportunities for rapid transition through technology. We recognize that 77,000 folks already employed in the technology sector. It is primarily a green sector. It is a growing sector, and I absolutely want to be a governor who champions Vermont as innovative and including in the tech sector. My economic development strategy actually is around two programs, Invest Vermont and Innovate Vermont, and they completely come together around what we're talking about. Investing in great downtowns, creating co-working spaces like I visited the Generator space. VSET, how do we actually create an ecosystem of opportunity within our built environment that is exciting and places where innovators can grow off of one another. But also innovation in the key four driving sectors of our economy, which I believe are high tech, advanced manufacturing, and what I call the green energy economy, which is renewable energy and efficiency, and the farm, food, and forest economy. Now, all of those are in my first 90 days. We are going to establish task forces in each of those sectors and then have an innovation summit after that to actually bring together these ideas, because like Marguerite is saying, they aren't competing with one another. They're a wonderful synergy that we have to promote, and I want to be the governor that drives it.
Mr. Lee.
We've always been creative here. We've done more with less. I've always thought this was a tech state. I came here and IBM was here, and Mr. Watson lived in Stowe, and Lyle Raymond, who built his house, the last house he ever built was my house, which is passive solar, stone wall, situated to the southeast, so I absorb all the sunlight. You know, my spring is behind me. I do more with less, and I believe that's what we have to do. People are going to be flocking here. You don't realize that after this election, people are going to be banging on our door to get out of the United States and come here where the discussion is civilized. You know, I believe I came here because of two words, town meeting. That's where democracy comes from, and that's where all your technology comes from, and that's why the great people will come back to this state. I am not worried about the tech center and what's going to happen here. It will come here because this is the place to come. And you want to do that, you keep this beautiful. We're going to speak to the Champlain people here on coming up, and all you have to do is clean that lake up where that girl from Lake Tahoe caught that 20-pound pike the other day. A world record. She's got 40 world records, and she plays right here in St. Michael's, you know, and she's a goal scorer, and she's an alpine skier. They're coming from California to Vermont. Why? Because this is where democracy started. Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. You know, they came here, they fought. If they fought Shays' rebellion, we would have we wouldn't have an oligarchy. We would not have the democracy we have that's controlled by Arthur Daniels Midland and everything. So we got to stop.
Arthur Daniels Midland, you're talking about?
Not Arthur, it's Archer. Well, ADM, that's all I know.
So I want to remind you that we are talking with the Vermont candidates for governor you're watching Vermont PBS. We're going to move to the next area that we want to talk about, which includes education and infrastructure. As you might expect, we received a lot of questions about Vermont's broadband and cell phone infrastructure. According to Jim Porter, Director of Telecommunications and Connectivity at the Department of Public Service, of the 300,000 addresses in Vermont, just 71% of those have access to the internet at what the Federal Communications Commission defines as broadband speed. That's not enough. Here is a question from one of those underserved Vermonters, Brian Alexander.
My question concerns broadband access. I'd like to ask the candidates what their policies are for improving broadband access in rural Vermont. I'm speaking to you from Ripton, up in the Green Mountains, in the center part of the state. And our broadband access is pretty lame. Indeed, many parts of our town, we can't even get access to what the FCC defines as the national minimum for broadband. And we also don't have any cell phone coverage. Without decent broadband, we are stymied culturally, politically, economically, and in terms of education. Indeed, I'm recording this with a handheld camera, but I can't upload it to YouTube or to email or anywhere on the web from my home office where my business is based because our broadband speeds are so slow. Thank you.
And I think we're going to start with Mr. Lee.
I think he's lucky. You know, I live in Craftsbury and I go to the library. I get all my information at the general store in the library, and we sit and we talk to one another, and I don't have broadband at my house. I don't have cell phone coverage at my house, you know. So what they're going to do, the technology will advance for him. They'll be able to have these probably drones that fly around, and they're going to give it right around there and stuff, you know, which is cut off the finger of the Cleveland Indian pitcher, which really upset me the other day, but that's interrelated with the drone. But that's technology, you know. If you're a pitcher, don't go out and play with drones before you're going to start. You know, I've known of many injuries in the sport of baseball, and they're usually not on the field injuries.
But how would you expand the broadband?
How do you expand it? The technology, it'll do it on its own. I don't worry about anything. The governor's job is not to do that. The governor's job is to sit back and get out of the way of progress and don't retard things. You know, and the word governor means to retard. There's a definition of it. Think about it. So think about that. And fossil fuels, you know, why do they call them fossil fuels? Because they came from dead things, and we're using them all up, and we got to stop that. And then don't worry, broadband, everybody, we're going to be fine. Go to the library. The kid down there, go meet your neighbors. Don't be an isolationist. Go out and say hello to somebody. That's what I say to him.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, two governors, previous governors, have made the pledge that we have full broadband coverage to the last mile, and I'm going to stop short of promising that because I know how difficult that is and how expensive that is, and I believe that what we should be doing is, with all due respect to the gentleman from Ripton, is to try and focus on the areas where we have dense development, that we need that help, prioritize, make sure that we have the highest speed access and the highest access and the highest speed available to us in those areas, whether it's Springfield or Bennington or Brattleboro or Rutland, and try and work on those areas and build out from there, because we don't really have a policy in terms of where it gets built first. We're leaving that up to many of the developers to do so, and I think that what we should be doing is trying to focus on those areas first. But there is some hope in the future. I was speaking with someone from AT&T, and they've got a new technology out right now that may give us hope into the Ripton areas, because there's this plastic type of antenna that apparently, and they just announced it over the last month, that fits over an electrical line that transmit broadband outside of the wire. So anywhere that you would have an electrical hardware wire, you would potentially be able to deliver broadband with this new technology, inexpensive type of an antenna. And I'm not sure if it's beyond my pay grade, whether it's a repeater system or whether it's somehow driven that way, but it's outside of the electrical line itself.
See there, we already fixed it.
Well, possibly. I mean, it's just new technology and with satellite as well. Satellite is going to be the wave of the future.
Lieutenant Governor Scott, I do have a follow-up question for you. Do you have broadband at your house? We know Mr. Lee does not, but do you have broadband at your house, and if so, do you use it?
I do. I have it at my house and also through my phone as well. So I utilize both, but I use it.
Are there any models of, in your opinion, of companies or collectives getting broadband to the last mile? Sorry, one more follow-up for him. That you particularly approve of?
Any models? Well, again, the one I just mentioned is really exciting. This could be a breakthrough for us if it really is attainable, and I'm sure others will follow suit. But I think satellite is another that we utilize. I mean, I use it on my phone. Whether it's cell service, I'm able to get access as well. And I think that that will be developed in the future. So we have to pay attention that it may not be all just hardwire technology, that it could be satellite driven. So we have to just keep up with technology.
You know, I think that broadband delivery is absolutely critical to driving the opportunities for not just high tech, but education. Frankly, we have literally a homework gap for families and communities that don't have access to those who do. And the inequity of that situation, while many of the libraries are connected, we cannot have kids unable to actually do their homework in the same speed and at the same conditions as others. But it's so important for our growth of our economy. So I actually do believe the governor does need to help drive this forward and create the conditions for accelerated delivery. And while I think the hub is very important, my Invest VT is about our hubs, our downtowns. And when we invest in infrastructure and literally create new main streets, we need to create the opportunity for dark fiber in those hubs. But last mile expansion is very important because telecommuting is another critically important opportunity for Vermont's economy. You know, we have so many assets here. Our proximity to Quebec, to Boston, to New York. We have the UVM's prototyping center. We have Champlain College and what you've seen with Marguerite. But if we don't have new regulatory environments for pole attachments, one of the biggest costs for service providers is the fact that they can't enable them to attach to the poles. We need to support the kind of municipal EC fiber models so that more communities have municipal bonding opportunities to be able to drive to the last mile in their community. And finally, we've got to aggressively go after every federal dollar we can.
Okay. So even in some places that are connected to the internet, when you can get a connection, not everyone is taking advantage of the internet. And there is still a digital divide between people who are conducting business online and those who are not. That leads to our next video question from librarian and writer Jessamyn West.
I'm one of those people who has an internet job, but I can live anywhere, and I chose to live here. I love it here. But I'm concerned that IT infrastructure at a town government level isn't just holding us back at a civic level, but that we're not doing a good enough job setting expectations for what normal technology use is. And this trickles down to the people who live in our towns who wind up digitally divided for a number of reasons, but partially because people aren't setting and modeling good tech use behavior and establishing norms. So I'm on a few boards in my town, and we get notified for our meetings by postal mail. Vermont Health Connect, where I bought my healthcare on the exchange for a while, makes all their important announcements over postal mail, despite the fact that they have my email address and my phone number. These things are no longer considered sort of normal in the larger world where people use technology every day, but they're still part of my Vermont experience, and I think they set a tone for how people learn about the safety and usefulness of technology in their lives to solve problems. I'd like to know what your plan is for trying to bring all of Vermont's cities and towns up to a basic level of technology competency, safety, and comfort so that we can help bridge the digital divide, get connected, and keep working.
Secretary Minter.
Well, thank you for that question. And having been involved for 10 years in supporting municipalities with the Department of Housing and been on my own planning commission and very close to what it is that we need to evolve and modernize municipal governance, I think the question is very important. The digital divide is quite real. And for communities that have less access, there is a challenge. And what I know is, after Irene, for example, we actually pursued federal grants to help reduce that digital divide. And there were communities that stepped up to actually become much more digital literate. And the benefit of that, and you know, we have the Front Porch Forum, for example, how we create stronger community through greater access to community communication. But for us at the municipal level, having, for example, all of our town plans digitized, all of our maps, it actually facilitates the ability for businesses who want to grow, for folks who want to sell their homes. There is so much we want to do. So for me, it's about creating more opportunities through grants. I love to pursue more federal opportunities. You know, I have been the secretary of the second largest agency of state government. I am aware constantly of federal grant opportunities that we in state government don't have the chance to push forward on, and municipalities can't. They need to collaborate with us. And I want to be, as I was as secretary, very aggressive. And this is an important goal for our municipal services.
Okay. Mr. Lee.
Well, there's a classic example of reading on Skype. That's what I saw. And I don't like technology for the way it's going. I like talking, people, look into people's eyes. You know, I just think that this whole benefit that technology is going to bail us out, you know, that we're in trouble and everything else. I want everyone to be an artist. I want everyone to grow up, go to school, and develop multitasking. I learned from Victor Panenak, Design for the Real World. He was a devotee of Buckminster Fuller at the Rhode Island School of Design. You know, I was at MIT. We don't even know what makes a heartbeat. We do not know that. We don't know what makes a leg cramp. You know, we think we know. We're at the infancy of knowledge. We're starting out, and I don't believe that we have to worry about these problems. We got to worry about the bigger problems of saving this planet from ourselves.
Can't technology help with them?
No. I don't believe technology. I think technology is an alternative that goes around and doesn't address the problems. It's like Major League Baseball. You know, it used to be religion was the opiate of the masses. You know, that's what Marx said. You know, but it wasn't. Sport is the opiate of the masses. NASCAR, you know, non-athletic sports centered around rednecks. I do not believe in that. I'm a hunter. Go out and eat your own food. Go out and do it.
Lieutenant Governor Scott.
I'm not sure whether to thank him or take homage to that, but
that's the problem with me.
I understand the issue, and that's why when I said before that we really have to focus on the population centers. We have to develop our high-speed access, make sure we have broadband to those centers where communities are. It's going to be difficult, and I don't think it should be forced, to be honest with you. I think that this is something we're all going to evolve. We're going to transition. We're in a transition period right now that we're fully contemplating. I went from, like Sue, I still get a newspaper every day, but I'm not reading it as much, to be honest with you. I'm doing it online. So I've transitioned, and there'll be a time when I'll probably get rid of that newspaper and go to something else. And there are a lot of people, we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of people in Vermont that don't want us to go there. They still like that interaction, going right to the post office, getting their news down the coffee shop, doing whatever they have, and there's nothing wrong with that. But state government has to react as efficiently as possible. We have an obligation to do whatever we can for our taxpayers to make sure that we're affordable, because we do face this crisis of affordability in Vermont. So we have to have a modernization plan in order to get us there and make sure that we're interconnected with all the others. But in doing so, we really have to consider, I think, the stumbling block, the obstacle in the way, and something to really to take into account is information security. And that's something that we're going to have to solve as we move forward, or maybe before. And it could be an opportunity for us as a state, because we have cybersecurity technology at Norwich University that is actually instructing in that, and that could be something that we could utilize in some of what we do in the future.
I want to follow up with you about one thing. You know, you have said that you want to concentrate on the hubs in the towns and getting access there. 7 Days reported a story earlier this year. We talked with realtors who are having trouble selling properties in Vermont that don't have internet and cell phone access. Buyers who are coming to Vermont who want to live here don't want to live in places where they can't get a Wi-Fi, where they can't get broadband internet and stream Netflix. from their living room. So I guess what would you say to a Vermont homeowner who's frustrated that they were promised this broadband and they can't get it in their house, and it's affecting the property value of their home?
Well, certainly you shouldn't make promises you can't keep. And that's something that I've said from day one, that I'm not going to overpromise, that I'm going to be realistic and pragmatic. But I believe that technology is going to change. Just as I said, with the AT&T technology that's changing and shifting, what we've seen with satellite technology that's changing and shifting. In 10 years, who would have thought we would be where we are today 25 years ago? So fast forward 10 years from now, we may not even be thinking about hardwire. We may be using a whole different technology. So I think it's coming. I think we're transitioning during this time, and I believe in technology, and I believe the innovation that some of the people that are watching this program or in the audience right now, they're going to drive that. It's going to come from them, and I look forward to that. We need to foster that in some way in state government to make sure that we're matching our hopes with policy to incentivize that so that we drive the new technology and give credit and make sure that people can prosper as a result of it.
I just want to ask a follow-up question of all of you. If you've got these small towns and they are falling farther and farther behind in the digital divide, how do you help them catch up? Like applying for federal funds is great, but it seems like it helps when you have local champions who are able to help bring them forward. How would you, as governor, help those small towns catch up?
Keep innovating. Keep praying that technology will help them out. You know, I just found out I can't sell my house. Phil, I don't have anything up there, but I guarantee you, in the future, if the United States keeps going the way it is, people are going to move up here just so they won't be able to hear anything. You know, if I don't hear it on Vermont Public Radio, I don't hear it. You know, that's the way it is in my life, you know, and I believe that, don't worry. I think our technology, like you say, 25 years ago, we wouldn't be able to predict what we had right now, you know, with the first cell phones and everything. So things will create. I am, you know, that's the way I am. I'm optimistic.
Secretary Winter.
So, you know, we did establish the state of Vermont Telecom Authority to authorize bonding. Let's remember we have actually come a long way. And one of our biggest challenges is that this is not a regulated industry. And I think we need to push much harder on the private sector and have certain expectations, and that is up to a governor and an administration to actually set expectations for last mile. But it's also about empowering local communities, and I think that the EC Fiber example is a great example of actual municipalities who became champions, as you say, because it really does take champions, but to be able to access capital by investing actually in last mile users to begin to actually create the bonding capacity to expand. And if we can enable more municipalities, and there may be some statutory change opportunities to enable those municipalities, but I believe they have the authority now. But again, I'm going to go back to some of the biggest costs, which is using the poles. And we have barriers to that right now that I believe we need to be digging into to help make sure providers have the lowest cost to try to get out to the last mile. It is the technology we have now. We can't leave people behind. I don't believe it just solves itself. It isn't going to solve itself unless we create a regulatory environment that creates incentives.
Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, again, I think incentives are part of the key, tax incentives in particular. My economic plans call for reduced sales tax on trying to bring the equipment forward to grow this industry. As well, I think we should be talking about things like the R&D tax credit. The legislature took some of that away a couple of years ago, and I think that drives technology. We have to stop. We have to match our hopes to policy. I think we just keep forcing industry to do whatever we think is necessary, but what we do is we make it more unaffordable for Vermonters to stay here. And we have to have skin in the game. We have to incentivize in some way. We have to grow this economy, but we can do so by using more carrots than sticks. Just forcing them to do so, forcing them to react isn't going to make it affordable, and it's not going to make it happen because we're not going to have anybody that wants to do it. So my theory, the way I like to accomplish things is to provide incentives, to have everyone on the same page pulling in the same direction. And I believe that we can do that. We just have to follow through with our policy that helps us get to the 21st century.
So let's talk a little bit about education. This question actually comes back to something we were talking about earlier. Ann Hammerly of Arlington sent in a question to us. She pointed out that schools in Vermont have wide disparities in the quality of the technology that's available to students. Some of them have comprehensive and up-to-date hardware, software, networking capabilities. Others have outdated computers and inadequate software, and in-school regulations that prevent students from creating, communicating, and sharing. She asks, what is your specific plan to eliminate this disparity in the schools and give all Vermont students equal opportunity? And we'll start with Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, again, I don't think it's a top-down approach. I think there can be incentives to provide for that. I think the education secretary can drive a part of that in terms of providing some incentives for doing so. But I think it is a locally driven, and I believe that local school boards have to be a part of it. I believe that the schools themselves have to be a part of it, and it's not something that should be forced upon the communities in terms of how they deliver education to their kids.
Just to follow up on that, how does the state provide leadership in that without forcing it, with respecting local control, but still providing that leadership?
Again, more incentives, creating more help in terms of more carrots than sticks. Again, forcing from the top down doesn't accomplish anything but ill will, as we've seen with Act 46, for example. I believe that most of the local school boards, most of the local communities want the best education possible for their kids. And I think that it's incumbent upon them to be part of the process, with us as a state government trying to assist in any way we can to provide those opportunities. But we're already spending $1.6 billion to educate 86,000 kids. And we have to make sure that we find ways to deliver that 21st century education in a much different way. And that could be through technology as well. I mean, I think that there should be more interactive learning, that we don't have to have one teacher that in a particular area. We could share in resources in that very same way if we have the technology to do so.
Secretary Minter.
Well, I want to just say, having being a working mom with both of my kids going through the public school, one through 8 years apart, and now my son, a junior in high school, in a school which has really taken on this challenge of trying to bring technology into the classroom and use it. And having been involved, my husband on the school board, with the difficult decisions, spending decisions. And our class was in fact the first one, and we had lots of sessions about using the iPads and the topics about communication, not allowing excessive communication. There are a lot of issues that come up. But what it became obvious to me, and my son, he knows, is lucky enough to have a family that is computer literate and he has access to a computer, but quickly realized that he was not every one of his classmates have that. And frankly, if we just let it up to the schools to do what they want, if there are some students who have no access to learning digital literacy, learning the language of coding, like a language like French, this is the future. We have got to have STEM education with our kids. If not, they are going to be behind the opportunity to have those great jobs in the growing tech economy and to become the workforce for the businesses that want to come and grow here. It's all about creating that pipeline, and it's about making sure we have equal access to those opportunities, because some kids are already being left behind and don't have the opportunity for digital literacy and accessibility to those jobs that are great paying jobs here in Vermont. I think it's very important that we move forward collectively on that mission.
Just a quick follow-up for you about that. I think you're right that kids have all this technology. How do we get the parents who don't have access to that? How do we bring them
Well,
for
so
how,
in
is there
our
a way to do that?
example, the iPads became the opportunity and the door opener for the families who never had that access before. So in our school, we created class, trainings, not just for the students, but for the parents. And for some, it is a real big divide. I don't know if Bill is going to want to become iPad literate, but when he finds out how much he could be looking at baseball and really digging into what's happening real time, he might find himself addicted. I-dicted, we call it. And it is really, though, access to that opportunity is very serious. And the inequality that we have, and an inequality that Vermont has relative to competing with kids for post-secondary education opportunities, we really need to continue to move the ball forward. I can't wait to get him addicted.
Oh, boy. Mr. Lee.
There's an old saying, those who can, play. Those who can't, teach. And all my kids, I have 4 children. One's at Gonzaga. He's a website designer. And my younger son, Andy, LSU Eunice, national champ, 4 out of the last 6 years in women's fast pitch softball. He's a savant. I usually use the word idiot in front of it. But Anna is in graduate school. Actually, Andy's a doctor. He's the only one in our family with a doctorate, except for all my other relatives. But Caitlin is a mother of 2 in Jackson, Mississippi, and they're all well educated. And they were Montessori kids, they were Waldorf kids in Wolcott. They learned alternative programs, and I think that's what we have to push. I believe in educating at an earlier age and getting kids in tough positions into Head Start. I believe in running children. I believe in running them so they secrete their own endorphins so they don't get subject to the bad endorphins that are being peddled on the street through our criminal element. I believe in legalization. I believe in monitoring everything, taxing everything. I believe that sin tax will get us out. And in the tech industry, if you have a tech job, you earn $77,000. If you don't, you earn $47,000. So it's inevitable that we'll go that way. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Scott?
Well, again, I think there's balance that's needed. I don't think it's for everyone. I believe that there's a sense in, I learn differently. I'm a hands-on learner. I was going to be a tech ed instructor. I love to build and create things. I think there's a great future for anyone that wants to get involved in the trades. So technology isn't for everyone, but even then, even if you like to do, even the mechanic of today's world, doesn't just change spark plugs and change oil. They have to do diagnostic work. So they have to have some technology in their background. But at the same time, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to communicate. We in the Senate, I preside over the Senate, and we don't allow electronic devices in the Senate because we want to be sure that we have the debate, that we have the interaction between 2 people or the whole body paying attention to the same thing. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to communicate with one another, and we can't do it all digitally. We have to have a balance of the 2.
Yeah. Did you want to jump in there too?
Well, I want to say that I don't disagree with, and I certainly am one. Look, my daughter didn't have a cell phone until she went to college because I refused. But I'm really aware, and I think it has been through this iPad in the classroom, of how much my kids have access to that others don't. And I'm also aware, per your point, that to not have access to that level of understanding and digital and sort of the homework, everything that is setting us back if we don't have access to it, it may not be your choice. And I don't want to underplay how critically important the creative economy is and the tech economy and the physical activity. But I do worry if we don't have that access to communication technology and what about the kids who aren't communicating? Right now, our kids, at least my family, my community, is grieving the loss of 5 kids. And I didn't want him to be alone in his room, and I realized he wasn't alone. He was constantly communicating, and this is how kids communicate, those who have the devices and have the access. And that's reality right now for many, many kids. So I just worry about those who don't have access.
You're right. I wanted to call Jasper the other night because it was a super full moon, and I wanted him to go sit on a ridge with his friends and see the Earth rotate towards that moon, and to grieve for what happened on Interstate 89. It was a rupture in the force field, an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment for me, you know, and it just, it fractured me. I've known Jasper since he was held in the hands, and you know, and he wanted me to be the geezer on Jasper and the Geezer on WDEV, and I said, thanks, but I'm not that old yet. You know, I'm still playing. So I am not the geezer. I am not against technology. You know, I believe it will help, and I can't wait till I get broadband at my house.
Just a little bit more on that. Just quickly, it's just that everyone is different. I have two daughters, and one that I have a great relationship with face-to-face. The other one is more by texting, and that's how it opened up a whole new dialogue between the two of us. So it is healthy, but at the same time, I see the family sitting around at the restaurant, 5 of them sitting around the table, and they're all looking down at their cell phones, and they're not talking with one another. So again, a balance of the two is necessary.
I wish my dad would text me, man.
Yeah. That's education. Santa Ana said, if you don't learn from your history, you're destined to repeat your mistakes. So we've got to learn how to use we just don't listen to the past, and that doesn't allow us to use our cellular devices in the proper way because it's a false, it's the matrix out there. People don't realize it, but it is.
Before we get any further, I want to do a station ID and just say you are here watching the Vermont candidates for governor talking about technology on Vermont PBS. And we'll have some more debates. Vermont PBS has more debate coverage. The U.S. House candidates will be debating on October 20th at 8, and the U.S. Senate on October 27th at 7:30 p.m. on Vermont PBS. I want to talk now about policies and legislation affecting tech companies. And I want to start with this video question about independent contractors from business owner Ann Pettyjohn.
I run a small software development firm in Burlington, and in 2014 we were the target of an audit by the Vermont Department of Labor. It resulted in a substantial fine because they determined that according to Vermont's rules, a contractor we hired should have been classified as an employee. Now, this individual has his own business, he has his own set of clients, and the work that he performed for us was outside of our core business. According to Vermont rules, nearly every independent contractor should be classified as a regular employee. The result of this has been businesses don't want to hire independent contractors. We get fined when we do, and it makes it very tough for independent contractors to get work in this state. In the tech sector, many technical professionals want to work as independent contractors, and as businesses, we need them to perform work on specific projects. As governor, would you support changes to the independent contractor rules in Vermont?
Mr. Lee.
I wish you wouldn't start with me. I'm a union guy, you know. I'm the guy who made all the millionaires out of baseball players by taking the money away from the owners and getting rid of the reserve clause and hanging together. So, you know, the Vermont Employees Association endorsed me because I am the guy that's going to stick up for hanging together. And the same thing about the Vermont teachers strike and stuff. You know, you got to have the tools on both sides. You just can't enforce things on your working people here. And, you know, I'm always going to be on the side of Eugene Debs. I'm going to be on the side of, you know, the Matt Waugh and everything that happened in the coal mining industry and the steel workers industry and everything that suppressed American workers. And I am a workers first guy. You know, I'm a socialist with a gun. And that's what I am. And I'm going to defend the workers' rights till the nth degree. And the money is not going to come down from the top on its own fruition. And I think we as Vermonters got to be prepared to, I think, look at the alternative that Ethan Allen and Thomas Naylor said a few years ago, and be prepared, because the Montreal Expos are coming back. And if I'm governor, I'm going to be leading the bus up there to watch them play against the Red Sox. Thanks.
Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, this was an unfortunate situation, and to answer the question, yes, I think it's a priority for me to make sure that we get this through, because it's created so much uncertainty amongst the labor market. The legislature, the House, had passed this legislation out of committee, 11-0, across party lines. Everyone agreed, and then it got out of committee, and then politics took over, unfortunately, and it never got any further. But there's got to be a way to clear this up, because it's not fair to either side in terms of trying to protect the independent contractors that wish to be independent, but also on the other side for those contractors that have to assume the liability if they have anybody working for them that is an independent contractor, because if they don't have workers' comp, the contractor, the general contractor, or whoever it is, the company, is going to have to assume that financial liability. So it's just so unfair on so many different levels. And again, it was politics at its worst, I believe, and it should be something that we should be able to accomplish if we work together. And it seemed as though the committee had come to the conclusion that they all could live with the legislation.
Secretary Minter.
Well, there's no question that we need to continue to move forward on the issue of better defining what an independent contractor is, because they're essentially, with our emerging and changing economy, there is a very gray area. Like Bill, I believe workers need to be secure. There needs to be unemployment compensation fund. The employees have to be able to invest in the unemployment fund. But there is also a changing world and landscape for what is an independent contract. So we know that for people like the woman who was just interviewed, this is really not even reasonable for her. So how do we actually change that definition, which ensures that those employees will be protected, but it doesn't take down a small firm that wants to have an independent contractor? That somewhere we need to make sure that the employees are protected. That is fundamentally important. You know, for businesses, even small businesses competing in this inconsistent landscape, I have heard a lot from all sides on this issue. And a small business owner who, pays every one of his employees properly and insures them and pays into the UI fund and the workers' comp fund. And by the way, our workers' comp rates are very high because there is an inconsistency there. And he competes with someone he used to employ who now has his own company who literally is taking people without those proper insurances. So that is unfair competition. So whether you're a union or an employee or a business owner, we actually have to come together. We have joint, shared interest in a better outcome. So I will ensure that we will continue this conversation and we will hammer out a solution that will be agreeable to both sides. We have to. It's in everyone's interest.
So Vermont Health Connect has faced challenges from the start, but it's not the only state-run IT project that has had that problem. How will you avoid the technology pitfalls experienced by Vermont Health Connect, the judiciary, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and other agencies as they installed new computer systems? And we'll start with you, Secretary Minter.
Well, thank you for pointing out. And when I was Deputy Secretary, we came to the conclusion before the project really was beginning to be implemented that it was a failure and we didn't move to a new system. So we've certainly learned a lot in my agency about IT expansion, particularly about how you manage IT contracts. And that's where I think we have seen a lack of success on Health Connect. These are multi-million-dollar contracts with companies that need to have very clear, strict oversight, performance management, measures to evaluate all along the way. And, if they don't meet those, there needs to be compensation back. So it's everything from the actual contract that you secure to the management of that contract to the product and making sure that product is actually going to succeed before you deploy it. We now have a system that is failing many Vermonters, and it is not just failing families who depend on this system, and my family happens to be one of them, but it's undermining our faith in state government, and that worries me greatly. And I know this is a top priority because we need a system that works. I will be looking at the independent evaluation of what's happening. I will put fresh eyes and a fresh management team on this process to make sure that we move forward to a system that succeeds. Now, I'm not going to suggest that we have an easy solution, rip off the Band-Aid and go to another system, because guess what? Somebody else isn't going to be able to solve our problems. We'll get back to that.
Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, actually, it's just a lack of leadership. We should have pulled the plug on Vermont Health Connect a couple of years ago. The handwriting was on the wall. It was a custom-made IT structure that was made specifically for Vermont, and it just failed. It was properly planned, improperly executed, and we should have just pulled the plug and transitioned to something else, and it's not too late to do so. There are off-the-shelf type of IT programs that would be available to us in a number of different areas, whether it's motor vehicle or whether it's Health Connect, the exchange. The federal government has an IT exchange where about 28, 29 other states have that system. So it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. We're the only one with this IT system that's going to cost us millions of dollars just to maintain. It's just a story. In my company alone, we had a bookkeeping system that was probably 15 years ago that failed. It crashed, and our alternative was to have another custom-built bookkeeping program for us, just us. And it would have cost us $10,000 to $15,000. And I remember saying we didn't have the money, couldn't do that, and I wasn't going to move in that direction. We almost had to go back to doing it by hand. But then we heard about this other new initiative called QuickBooks, and it was new, and it was going to. Somebody said it would cost us about $200 to buy, and they didn't know it was going to work for our company. And I said, for $200, we're going to take the chance. And look where we are today. Everyone shares in the maintenance costs. Everyone understands the system, but it's an off-the-shelf program that is. We have to fit state government to what some of the programs are doing, not trying to customize to the way we do things. We have to have the leadership and be able to change the way we do business.
Mr. Lee?
Well, the idea of doing it yourself is what Vermonters think about and what they love to do, and the fact that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I guess we've spent $200 million on it already, and it's not going to cost $200 million to fix it. And the problem is the insurance companies that no one wants to fund anything. What's wrong with our healthcare system? I'll tell you. I go in for my physical and it's 11:05, and I said, "Can I come in at 8 o'clock right when you open the doors and give blood?" And I said, "I don't want to wait around. I want to eat." So I said, "Okay, I'll come in at 8." I go in. There's a sign on the door. It says we have a meeting till 3 o'clock. I go and knock on the window. It's only till 9. The clock fell off the wall. And they go, "We don't have a technician in here to take your blood, Mr. Lee." And I go, "Okay." So I get in my car and I drive home. And I drive home and I'm behind a damn Quebec logging truck with 73 of the most beautiful maple logs that aren't going to mills around here. They're leaving the state. So add injury to insult to injury. I had to follow that damn thing, and I make baseball bats. Out of heartless logs, Carl Yastrzemski logs without hearts. And so we have a failure to communicate here. When my wife goes into the Department of Transportation to get her new license, her name is now Lee because we got married, but before that it was Donovan when she was a Canadian citizen when she came down here and got her green card. They said, "Well, you need this ID, you need this ID, and you also need your Social Security number." Well, they said, "Don't carry your Social Security card, lock it in a good place." So we go, "You've got to be kidding." So what do? We go in there and they said, "Well, you have a piece of letter?" And he says, "Like the one you sent us to come in and see you?" I mean, what we have here in this country and in this state is a lack of communication. We have a failure to communicate.
I want to make a joke about eating 50 eggs, but I won't. Cool hand Luke.
It's tough.
Failure to communicate.
I wouldn't recommend it.
So VPR reported in December that state government was contemplating spending $1 billion on IT projects in the coming years. And what I want to know is how would your administration increase state government contracts with Vermont-owned software companies so that more of that money that the state will be spending will be staying in the state? And we'll start with Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, there has to be a balance. As I said before, I think there are many off-the-shelf products that are available to us that we have to look at because it's from a cost standpoint and not building something that's just custom-made just for Vermont. But I'm a person, I use the Burlington Bytes to do my website for our campaign. And I believe in buying local. Whatever we can, I think we should be investing back in ourselves, trying to do whatever we can here in the state and take care of each other in that respect. But there are a number of times when we should be looking at other off-the-shelf type of products. Again, my example with QuickBooks was one that I think should be replicated in many different ways. There was integrated eligibility that the governor wanted to move forward with. It was going to cost $100 million to do. And the legislature resisted him going forward with that. He put it out to bid anyways after. But the conclusion was $100 million when companies have been coming to us now saying we could do that for 10 or 15 million off-the-shelf type product.
Mr. Lee.
Plagiarism is the greatest compliment, stealing other people's ideas and making them your own and stuff. And the funny thing about all of it's amazing because it works. I see, I just see this place evolving into the state and keeping the money in the state. Whatever you can do to keep the money here. I buy at Pete's Greens. I buy Mennonite chickens. When I'm in Alberta with my wife's house, where she was raised, I eat Hutterite. I eat close to the vest. I eat within 20 miles of my house. And I believe our technology should be the same way. We keep things on the society that we are small little communities. We have not bought into the greater American plan, and I think we should keep it that way. Stay right here. Stay Vermont, and put sin tax on everything that's bad, and that way, and raise the minimum tax wage up to high enough. Find out what number you need to pay off to the state, and find the minimum wage that will pay that debt.
Secretary Minter?
So the idea of the integrated eligible services was to actually make it better for folks entering the state system who have all kinds of potential benefits, from child care subsidies to food subsidies to health care benefits. And it's an important idea to make government more efficient, just what everybody wants. And the goal has been to have an IT system that can deliver. And I think what we all know is that while technology can do a lot, it isn't always able to fit the needs of government. Now, I know Phil says, let's go to an off-the-shelf product. There is no off-the-shelf product for Vermont Health Connect because Vermont's healthcare subsidy programs are unique in the country. And that's why we really can't just join Connecticut. Or if we join the federal exchange, we've actually going to be kicking 18,000 people off the current system. And what is that going to cost when we actually have to pay for the federal exchange and pay for some concurrent exchange? It's important to be methodical to plan this out. Yes, let's use our local providers. I'm disappointed, I'm outraged at what has happened and believe that we should be looking to local providers to help us through this next phase.
But I can't let that go. I mean, we've been methodical now for 4 or 5 years. We should have gone back 2 years ago and made the transition to something else. And I just don't think it's fair to say that we're going to leave 18,000 people out in the cold. We gave subsidies to Catamount. We can do this again. It's not as though we're going to transition to something overnight and leave anybody out of the system. Everyone will be in. Everyone will get the subsidies. Hawaii did it. They had the same system as we did. They're still providing subsidies. We could do it ourselves.
I got the money right now. We go up on the ridges and we take down those damn windmills and we make little daisies out of them or something, because that money doesn't go to our state. It never will. It never will. It's all for credit and things. And all these jobs provided by taking them down will pay for all of our health care.
So I know we're talking about healthcare, but what the original question was about is how do we have all these great tech companies in Vermont. Mm-hmm. How do we, the state, then contract with them? Is there a way to make it easier for us to be buying local for technology the way that we do for our food?
Answer their phone calls first.
Well, there is a competitive bidding process, and we would be interfering with interstate commerce if we said only buy local. That said, I don't know whether local companies were actually solicited for the kinds of projects that are being undertaken, because I truly believe that yes, purchasing local, but local investors or local companies will, I think, do a bigger job, a better job, and we'll get the A team. You know what happens when you have huge out-of-state companies who actually maybe be able to win the bid because they can get it at a lower cost, and we're often required by law to take that lowest bid. But what happens is, I have seen, and I've had to deal with running a $600 million budget and lots of contractors from out of state, including multi-million-dollar IT contracts, is when you're with the big contractors, they don't always send the A team. And when you have a local contractor, you're going to have the A team. And you're going to have the team with heart that wants this to succeed. And that's why I think we should be soliciting more and engaging these local providers much more into our IT development as a state.
Well, again, that's exactly why I use Burlington Bytes for my website. And I'm not sure that, I don't know if, Bill didn't use, he doesn't have a website, but I'm not sure that Sue used a local vendor in order to do that. And I think that it's appropriate. We have to all act appropriately in our own backyards. And we need to solicit and find areas of our expertise. In my economic plan, I talk about supply chains. And I think that that's a way that we could further this. We could find out what the companies are in the state, what do they need, and what can we do to replicate that right here in the state. But it takes communication to do that, bringing people together. And again, I think the supply chain model is a way to, as far as for technology as well, to be able to, because we don't all know what we do here in this state, but technology is growing so quick. I think that we just have to make sure that we do the proper research to see what everyone does and incorporate that.
Thank you. So I think we're ready for closing statements for the candidates. Mr. Lee, I'd like you to go first.
Well, I reluctantly came after this job. Peter Diamondstone came to me, and when you have a heart condition, you're on oxygen, you don't refuse requests. And I found out the art of governing from Plato and Socrates said that the greatest disservice Socrates said to young Plato was not to run when asked. And Mr. Reed, the farmer that I shook hands with and bought his pasture, his view, the point, and he passed away on Tuesday. He fought on Iwo Jima. He was the last, guy on Mount Suribachi here in Vermont. And I never spoke in town meetings. I believe whatever David Reed said was gospel. Now he's gone, and now I have a mouth and I must speak. So that's basically what I'm doing here, and I am the true conservative here. I am the guy that has a pitchfork and digs his potatoes. I'm the one who weed whacks with a scythe. I'm the one who rakes his leaves by hand. I'm the one who is still pitching at the age of 69, and I'm the guy that'll be strong and lead us back to where we should have been a long time ago. And if it takes, as Thomas Naylor said, organizing our people and being ready to dissolve and go back to the Second Republic, I will lead you. We'll all have guns, we'll all be in the militia, you all give 2 years of service to the state of Vermont, and I'll lead you back the way you should have been.
Secretary Minter.
Well, thanks everybody for being here and for taking on this great conversation. I have to say that I have been able in my life, really for the last 25 years, to throw myself into my family, our community, and public service. I've been able to work side by side with Vermonters in some of our toughest times. I was a legislator during the height of the recession as the Irene Recovery Officer, helping to rebuild roads, bridges, and communities after that disaster, and running the transportation agency, balancing a $600 million budget, managing a diverse workforce of 1,300 people. And now for the last year, I've really been traveling the state, we're talking with Vermonters from really Craftsbury to Newport and Bennington. And what I know is we have many, many challenges. But I'm someone who faces challenges head on. I also am optimistic about our future. I believe that Vermont has a bright future ahead, that we can be a magnet for young people, for innovators, for entrepreneurs, that we can invest in our downtowns and create livable wage jobs, to have those opportunities for young people to live, work, and stay in Vermont. I know that technology is a huge part of our future. Let's look at Burlington, Vermont, 100% renewable. Hats off to BED and Neil Lunderville for doing what's possible, for setting a vision, for going forward. And that's what I want to do as the next governor. Lead our state forward, take on the challenges, set the goals, accomplish the goals. That's the kind of governor I'll be. Thank you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Scott.
Well, again, thank you very much for having us here today. I've managed and developed a number of projects in my lifetime, and although they are in the construction world and not technology, I know the value of a good plan and a solid foundation. And today, we need to strengthen Vermont's economic foundation. Our economy is bleeding, and we're losing the source of innovation that we absolutely need to grow, and that's the workforce. That's the age group from 25 to 45. And to reverse these trends, we need to provide good-paying jobs, stable, predictable tax policies, a strong education system, affordable housing for everyone, and a more efficient state government. And I'm the only candidate who's been an entrepreneur and small business owner my whole life, and who knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck while having a small business and having a family. And as the last 6 years have shown us, we can't tax, mandate, pander, promise our way out of this into a vibrant economy. Those promises must, they may score political points, but they make Vermont less affordable. Nothing is free in this world. Someone always has to pay, but the state can provide an environment that's conducive to growth, where businesses and families can succeed through their own innovation and hard work, and I have faith in Vermonters. We can make Vermont the best, the most attractive, and the most affordable state in the nation to live, work, and raise a family, and that will be my goal as governor.
Thank you. And that concludes our roundtable discussion today. I'd like to thank the candidates for participating. Thank you to our sponsors, 7 Days, Vermont PBS, BTV Ignite, the Vermont Technology Alliance, and Main Street Landing Performing Arts Center. You can watch this video online at vermontpbs.org. Find out more information about Innovation Week events at BTV Ignite. Make sure you go out and experience some of those. And most importantly, don't forget to vote on November 8th.
The preceding program was made possible with support from BTV Ignite, Main Street Landing, Vermont Technology Alliance, and 7 Days.